Testing. 1 2 1 2. Test. Microphone check. 2. Okay. Hello. Hello and welcome to the Black Ponderer. Just checking out the levels here. Let's see. Sorry. Test. Okay. Test. 1 2 1 2. Microphone check. Okay. We're good. Get myself situated. I guess I should have prepared this before I hit the go live button, but I didn't. Oh well, we're here now. This is the Black Ponderer. There's my camera right there. Okay. Hello, welcome. My name is Neil Trotter. I am the host of the YouTube channel, and in the Black Ponderer we talk about philosophy. Specifically, we read philosophical texts, or sometimes it's just, not specifically philosophical texts, but sometimes we'll read texts that have philosophical themes in them, and then we will, just talk about those themes and kind of go into a whole philosophical deep dive. And that's mostly what we do here, but we also do the just free balling, which is philosophy topics or just topics with a philosophical framework, perspective. That's what these live streams are for. And so I just like to welcome you to the live stream and enjoy. It's all the live streams are more of, I'm just talking in case you're new. Maybe you've never checked out the Black Ponderer and you're just watching. So, the live streams are more just like chill. They're like Hangout. We're just having a good time. We're just chilling. Just imagine you got a drink. We're at a bar. It's like it's like you're chilling on the picture that I use for the thumbnail. Your restaurant, lounge, cafe, nightclub. But it's not like a loud nightclub. We just chilling. Get yourself a drink. This is some coffee. But whatever. Just chilling. We just chilling. So today's topic, and then we're going to talk about topics. So today's topic is activism. That's what we're talking about today. We got to be talking about activism. And we're going to talk about, excuse me. I'm yawning. I actually just donated the blood. So I'm kind of tired. A little drained. Always happens when I give some blood donations. The energy kind of goes away. So we'll see how that goes. I was supposed to, the reason why I'm doing it like a little bit earlier, usually I kind of do it 2 hours earlier from here, but I was trying to see maybe I might want to do something later today after this, but I don't think I have the energy. And that's okay. Let me read you the description I have here. We're talking about activism. So, are you discouraged about the state of the world? Is he got discouraged about that? Think the world is going to hell in a handbasket? I mean, you think a lot of people say the world's going to shit. Look at our politics. Look at our the wars going on and the social issues and the civil rights violations and all this, and the economy is bad and inflation and all this, lots of sentiment going on there. So, you can do something about it. You can do something about it. And you don't have to be a martyr or a saint to make the world better. You really don't. You don't have to be a martyr or a saint. You don't have to sacrifice your everything that you know well and dear, all your loved ones. You don't have to make huge sacrifices. You don't have to be the most goodest, virtuous person in the world to make a change. You can just be a normal, average, everyday person. There's no problem with doing that. We could talk about that. But you do have to put some effort into it. It's not like the hardest thing in the world to do, but it does take some effort. And that's what some people are like. Well, I just I could just change the world by just existing. Well, no, you got to do a little bit more than that, right? But, you don't have to be a martyr or a saint. And what else? And you do have to get out of your comfort zone. That's kind of a thing that you're going to have to do if you want to be an activist. You're going to have to get a little uncomfortable, but not a lot uncomfortable. Sometimes you will. Sometimes some versions of activism you do have to get, very uncomfortable. Some you just a slightly uncomfortable. It's not too much, but you do have to get out of a little bit of a comfort zone. That's true. What else did I write? I said small positive actions and constructive interactions are what create ripple effects that change the world. It's true. It's true. Just small interactions. When I say interactions, I mean like the things we do with each other. I think that's a huge part of activism, right? It's how we interact with each other. We'll talk about that. But also small actions. You don't have to like raise $1 million, something like that. You could like maybe give $5 to somebody or something. That's cool. Excuse me, guys. Sorry, just donated the blood. Tired. Okay, and then of course you got these quotes: "Be the change you want to see in the world." So you want to change the world, you should start being the change you want to see in the world. And nobody is free unless everybody is free. That's another quote, a popular quote. Some people you're free, but maybe somebody else isn't free, or like you gain your freedom at the expense of somebody else's freedom. That doesn't work. Then are you really free? The argument, that quote is you're not. So let's discuss how to change the world for the better. How do you do it? How do you change the world, man? Okay, so we can begin and just talk about, how I like to, so I can get rid of this. Okay. We're getting rid of this. And so we can begin by just talking about kind of my experience with activism. And, and that's how I like to start, because that's my only frame of reference. Is my personal experience, and then we can expound on if anybody else wants to bring up a topic, or if not, that's cool too. But we start with my stuff to just get the ball rolling. All right. I guess I'll start with how I think it's a great place to start is how I started this channel, this YouTube channel. Right. And I've talked about that, so we won't go deep into that, but I want to relate the beginnings of the channel with activism and what kind of motivated me to continue on my activism journey. So, I started the channel because I was interested in seeing more more philosophy on the internet that wasn't like superficial, or it wasn't like such a deep, I saw a lot of there was a few good philosophy channels. There was a few good ones, but most of them, first of all, there wasn't that many. I started this channel over 10 years ago, right? There weren't too many. There were like a few good ones, but most of them were they're all right. A lot of them were just kind of just a lot of talking about various things that weren't really philosophy. But then even the good ones were just kind of focusing on philosophical topics, like like let's talk about the will to power. Let's talk about the think therefore I am concept. Let's talk about like Plato's allegory of the cave, right? And it's all these various topics. Let's talk about like what Jean Part meant when he's talking about the nausea, or like Camus' absurdism, that's all cool. But I kind of wanted more like, why don't we just talk about like a book? Actually talk about a book. Get people kind of encouraged about like actually picking up a book instead of just like focusing on concepts. We could just focus on like books, I'd start there. just to encourage people to read. So that was cool. So I did start the channel, and what was going on, and as you know, I put like a little spin on it, where I kind of focus more on philosophical topics, but I like to focus in on social justice aspect of it, or how to use philosophy to make the world better. Not even just about self-improvement. That's cool too, making yourself better, but also like, okay, how do you apply these concepts to not only make you better, but now let's make the world better. I mean, I was very interested in that. Like, how do we use philosophy as a tool to make our surroundings, improve our surroundings, right? And not just ourselves. Now, there's the whole argument about like, well, you only have control over yourself, and you only can improve yourself. Don't worry about other people. Other people, you can't really control them. And it's not really about control, really. It's just about like, well, I mean, I'm looking around the world and I see, it's not very good. Like, can I make a change? It's like kind of contributing, putting your own actions into practice to help, your surroundings, your community, your society. I thought philosophy had a really good, philosophy has a lot of good advice for that. I always thought, I think there was a bit of a too much of a focus is about, okay, just focus on your own improvement, self-improvement, which is very important. Improve yourself. First you improve yourself, then you improve others, right? Sure, but a lot of it's just like you improve yourself, and then after that, it's like, well, I'm just going to improve myself. I'm not going to care so much about others, right? Which, I think that's kind of an issue with the world today, And I think there's this notion about how, kind of focusing too much on yourself, like not on others. And then there's this idea about like, well, you can only do so much for others. You really have to you only can focus on improving yourself, right? And that's kind of true, but like that's not all true. Like, and so we'll continue that discussion. But as I would talk more about like philosophy, and I would include those kinds of considerations, I'd get into debates with people online via the YouTube comments primarily. And they do, we'd go back and forth about, you shouldn't take philosophy in this way. For example, like I was big into feminism, and particularly feminist theory. And I think that's a great philosophical area where you can use it to like address some really profound issues that humanity faces, and not just improve yourself, but improve others, right? And people would be like, don't take philosophy toward that direction. Don't do it. Let's separate philosophy from social issues. It's too pure for that. And I've mentioned this many times, where people will say like, philosophy. People are obsessed with the purity of philosophy, and this kind of like self-improvement. And once you start venturing into like, well, let's use philosophy to also help others, then it becomes like tainted or something like that. So I get in debates with people online, and it's always cool to have debates. I like debating. I like having some constructive conversations, and I had a lot of constructive conversations and debates with people I strongly disagree with online. But then what happens, like you become what they call a keyboard warrior, right? You kind of you're spouting your ideas online, but like really what are you doing that's making the world better? And of course, like there's something to be said about like, explaining ideas in a constructive way, and that's educational, and that does help society because you got your ideas that posted via comment section or online on video, and then other people can check it out, and they can read it, look at it, and some people might learn from it, and some people may their minds will change, and people will think differently about certain things, um, and that's cool. But after a while, years of doing this, I'm like, okay, I need to kind of like get off the internet for a little bit, at least a little bit, and kind of actually apply these ideas to like the real world, in terms of like actual people who don't read philosophical texts. Right? And so and then of course, like the when in 2016, when President Trump got elected, that's what pushed a lot of people into like, okay, let's actually do something about this, right? And I was one of those people that I was like, yeah, I think it's time for me to like get off my ass and like get off the keyboard and actually like apply these ideas into like meaningful action items, right? And then, oh, hello, Y488. Yeah, people can always learn from others. It's like we all have blind spots and others can help us see them. Yeah. And that's true with people you disagree with, right? You're like, you're debating about stuff, and then you're like, yeah, well, I still disagree with you, but there's this thing I didn't realize that you're mentioning, that I should consider that, right? And that's important to do. That's important to do. So, eventually I started really getting involved in community. And, that's it. There's a lot of that going on where I'm originally from. And if you see a lot of my YouTube videos from way back in the day, and sometimes I'll shoot videos outside. Sometimes I did that. And you can see like San Francisco Bay Area, city of Oakland, parks, and little landscapes. And so I was over there a lot. And, activism scene over there is pretty, it's pretty liberal. So it wasn't that hard to implement the ideas. But as we know, as I've said, if you've gone through this journey of mine, with the Black Ponderer, and which is, I guess, I live my life right outside of the channel, and the channel just kind of follows where I go. And so I moved eventually to Tennessee for a job opportunity, which I talked about that a lot. And so we're here now, and we're in Tennessee, the city of Memphis. And Bible Belt, right? Conservative, red state. Although, Memphis is a little blue bubble in the Bible red state belt, but it's not that blue of a bubble. It's more like purple, I would say. Right. So there's a need. The activism scene here is pretty, it's huge. It's a bit disjointed. Like it's kind of like all over it's segmented. It's like siloed, and that's sad. But there's an activist scene here. But here in the Bible Belt, you kind of feel like more you can do something. So that's what I did. Eventually, I joined and so what I did is I just joined all the groups. Not understanding like the activism groups are segmented and siloed, and not all the groups are coordinating with each other. I was oblivious to that. Because in the San Francisco Bay Area, there's a bit more interaction, right? But here in, admittedly, I will say, like here in the South here, there's a lot more segmentation with activist groups. Everybody stays in their own lanes, which is kind of sad, to be honest with you. And I didn't realize that. I just joined all the groups. So one of the groups I joined was the Democratic Socialists of America, and I just joined them all. Like, am I a democratic socialist? No, but I saw them doing some good stuff, and I was like, all right, sure, I'll join. And they had a local chapter here in the city of Memphis, and I joined them. And then their local chapter had a little police abolition group, And that was cool because if you watch my videos, I've done a lot of videos on abolitionism and specifically police abolition. There's several videos about that where I argue that the world would be better without police, right? If you want to know more about that, just check out the videos, right? Or we could talk about that here. That's fine. But we were making, when I joined that group, we were making all these brochures and flyers and posters and like all these pictures and stuff, and it was cool. And then the group folded. The group folded based on, because of a lot of drama issues, a lot of vying for ego and power trips. You know how lots of groups, whether it's activist groups or political groups or clubs or like, music bands. I think like Fleetwood Mac broke up because of that kind of shit, right? The Beatles broke up because of that, right? Our groups, humans are humans, and groups will just break up because people want power and people want to be in charge, and there's all this drama between people, and that's what happened. They just kind of fell apart. But I was like, I still want to keep doing the abolitionist work. And they said, okay, here's all the posters and the brochures and the flyers we made. You're on your own. I'm like, okay. So what I would do is I would set up a table in the middle of a public space, like a park or courtyard, or like a public walkway. I'll just set up the table, and I have a sign, a big ass sign hanging off the table that says, a better world without police. That's what I did. A better world without police. Right? Just a big ass picture, poster. And I would just sit there at the table, just I had all my brochures, and I had books too that people could read, like, Our Prison is Obsolete by Angela Davis, or there's a book called The End of Policing. I did a video about that. All the abolitionist geography, just all types of abolitionist work, the new Jim Crow. Just to kind of have a library so people could so I can point to the books and say, hey, this is not some pipe dream. Like, there's some really smart academic people that have really researched this, and so I would just sit there and not. You just smile at people as they walk past. Right? Just smile at people, and eventually somebody will just come up and be like, "Hey, what's this all about?" They'll be like, "Well, what's this all about?" Right? Because eventually somebody's gonna be like, maybe somebody just wants to talk. Somebody's bored. Maybe somebody's early to their obligation, and they just want to kill time or something. There's all types of reasons why people will stop to just talk to you. And so, people would talk, and then they would talk to me, and I'd be like, a lot of people are like, well, that's kind of crazy. That's a little, that's kind of weird. We talk about, how a society will be safe if there's no police. And so we would just talk. I would just give them, I'd say a lot of things I was saying in my videos, about how, police, the foundings of police were this, and this. They were slave catchers when they first started, which is true. And they, busted unions. That's their original creation, was that. And you can see that throughout time. That's why, today police are still disproportionately target people of color and poor people and queer people and such and such. And about we should be focusing more on education and healthcare and school and and teaching our mental health and things like that, and resources, food and food insecurity. We should be And I was just talking. We'd have these long ass conversations, and it would be nice. It was nice. And I still do this to this day, by the way. It's a bit different because now I'm part of another group. So it's a bit more easier, I would say. But yeah, we would have these conversations, and of course, you wouldn't change these people's minds overnight, right? Or one-time conversation, they'd still be like, yeah, I don't know about that. But I would just have my table set up to be consistent. Have to set up my table every every week I'd be out there in the same place. So people would get to know me. They'd be like, oh yeah, that's that guy. That's that crazy guy with the no police. And I would form relationships with people because I was very friendly. I didn't shout at anybody. It was just a conversation. And then Y488 says, it's great when people will talk in person about these topics. I often treat these conversations like it's a scene in waking life. Yeah, it's very much like that. You probably know, maybe you don't, but I made a video about that movie, a film about lucid dreaming shown in various conversations. Yeah, check out that video if you would like. Yeah, that's like one of my favorite films. But it was much like that. But I guess, I mean, the conversations, because in waking life, those conversations get really like heady and cerebral. Like, it sounds more like two PhD students talking to each other, which is cool. That's cool. Because, and then they talk really fast and they talk they use a lot of big words in that movie, but I like it. But so the conversations I would have would be a little bit more grounded, a little bit more down to earth, a little bit more like basic language. And so what I was saying is like, I would be consistent. So I would do this, I started doing this in like 2000, I think like late 2020. I mean, this was during the lockdown pandemic era, but I was outside, wore a mask, so kept social distance. It was easy to do that. People were still out and about walking around because it was outside a park. Lots of people went to parks a lot back then, right? Because that was like one of those safe havens. Go outside, because people couldn't go in buildings and party. A lot of people were outside walking and stuff. So it was great. It was like pretty awesome. And so I would do that so I did that for years, right? And you'd see the same people. You see the same people would be like, hey, what's up? How's it going, man? And so we would build on our conversations, right? I'd say like, they would say like, well, what about, you said you should fund healthcare and like education, but where you got to get the money from? And I'd say like, well, we could take it away from police. and then they'd be like, well, what are police? And then you'd have to give like this huge breakdown on how finances and taxes are broken down, and that would be like we would start the conversation, and then next week they'd come back and be like, well, you see, like 65% of all taxes in the city are given to the police. Whereas like, it's interesting, in Memphis, the city of Memphis, zero tax dollars, city tax dollars go to education, zero. Like the tax dollars that go to funding schools here in Memphis are from the state. So state taxes, which Tennessee is a no tax state, right? So they're getting a lot. So how does that work, right? And then we wonder why our education system is like ranks one of the worst in in America, right? Because it's not being funded, right? We get federal taxes, the federal, so as you can see, like it gets complicated, right? So you have to talk these things through, right? So they'd have to come back. We talk for like a half hour or so. They leave, and the next week they come back, and I just form these relationships. Eventually, these people would become my buddies. They'd be my pals. Now we would disagree, but after a while, some of these people would start to agree with me. They'd be like, I'm kind of like, I'm starting to understand what you're saying. While this is going on, you would have like, and I'm just using the police abolition as an example, right? Because while this was going on, we had all these high profile, like unarmed black people getting killed by the cops. So it's kind of like evidence, right? So you could like see real time, like this is, and so the convincing was getting stronger, right? It's just interesting how like in Memphis, like the more money you put into police, like the less safer the city becomes, right? And you can show this statistically, like you'd have to pull up the public record, and it's all public record, like how much money the police make and You know, how the resources the police are getting, like a lot of that's public record. You can just pull it up, right, from your cell phone even, right? So I would do this type of stuff, and you would just see the in the crime statistics, all public record, right? You can just make that correlation in real time. That's one of the cool things about the cell phone, right, or the smartphone, I would say. You know, there's a lot of bad things about smartphone, but one of the cool things about a smartphone is that you kind of have the world, like all of information at your fingertips at all times, like, or a lot of it. So you can like kind of bring up statistics in real time, like talking to people, which is pretty awesome. You know, that's definitely helped me in a lot of my conversations. Um, so yeah, you know, over time, I've actually have convinced several people that, like, they would say, like, you know, you're right, this world will be better without police officers. But that takes a long conversations. It takes a long time to talk to people. And that's what I want to say. Like, that's kind of what activism can be. And I would say, like, this is how you use philosophy as activism, right? You kind of do the whole Socrates thing. But the thing about Socrates is he was kind of annoying the way he did it. He was cool though. Like, you know, Socrates is, amazing philosopher, right? One of the first, right? But he would annoy people, right? And you're gonna annoy some people. Like, either way it goes, if you disagree with people, you're gonna annoy them. But I like to come at people kind of meeting them where they are, like stating, like, hey, I think this, and you don't, like, why do you not think this? As opposed to, like, you know, Socrates, what he would do is he would search for, he would, like, intentionally look for flaws in people's logic, and then he'd be like, haha, I see a flaw in your logic. Or it's like, yeah, that's annoying. Right? That's annoying. But, you know, I mean, that's a way to do it. That's the way to do it. Well, I'm really, I can hold this microphone way down because I'm peaking. Yeah, that's a way to do it. As opposed, I don't do that kind of thing. I don't, like, because on the internet, people will do that. They'll be like, oh, there, I see this fallacy in your, like, argument. Or, like, see, you're wrong. Or they'll pull up something that just, like, shows, like, haha, I gotcha. It's like, you know, when you want to, like, genuinely connect with somebody, you kind of don't talk to somebody like that. You don't, like, try and pour it. You just want to get to know them and, like, okay, why do you think this way? And then, you know, but also when they say something clearly wrong, you can say, like, well, that's just wrong. Like, it's not even an issue of I disagree. That's just wrong. And I can show you statistics and, like, evidence. And, you know, it's funny because a lot of the stuff I was saying about abolition, right, would be like, they would say, you know, for example, just showing people, like, you know, law enforcement, they disproportionately target people of color, right? Right, and they would say, "Oh, that's not true." I'm like, "Okay, then I'll show you right here. Let's pull it up." And they'd be like, "What is this? Some left wing, radical leftist, like, source that you're showing me?" Like, no, it's like FBI.org, right? You know, it's literally the CIA.com, right? It's like MemphisPoliceDepartment.com. You know, it's like I'm pulling these records straight from the people. Like, these aren't, like, so, you know, and in that way you're not, it's I would do that, not in this haha gotcha. I'd be like, see, like, look, like, this is from these are your beloved people that you're talking about, and I'm showing you, like, it's not correct. Like, something's up. And then, yeah, Y488 says, you've got me thinking. There's a saying, acquaintances agree, friends disagree. Oh, yeah. I suppose. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's not really in a coded conversation for Metal Gear Solid. That's funny. I was in a video game store the other day, and I saw, like, a collection, Metal Gear Solid collection for cheap on Nintendo. It was like part 1, part 2, part 3, or something like that. And I was contemplating getting it, but I remember I had the Metal Gear Solid for PlayStation 2. I think the second one. I think I played them all. I never could finish them because I just can't get into them. So I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna get it. It's funny. Those Metal Gear Solid's cool, but it's just too much talking, which is funny because I read so much philosophy. Like I read Plato's dialogues and stuff. But I don't know. When I play a video game, I want to just play the damn game. I don't want to. But that's cool. Yeah, Metal Gear Solid. It's a little bit too much like story that that kind of conflicts. Like I'm trying to play the game, but that's cool though. Acquaintances agree, friends disagree. But I'm not sure how often that's true. Yeah, I don't know because it's just like it's not about. So when I have these conversations, I'm not trying to. They're not debates, you know. I'll have a debate. Like debates are fun. They're cool. But so a lot of people say debates don't really change people's minds. They don't. They really don't. It's healthy to have them. But what changes people's minds are conversations. Right? And you can have a conversations about things you disagree with. A debate is like you're trying to win somebody over with the argument, and it's like where a conversation is like, well, not really too. The objective is not me trying to convince you of a certain thing. I'm just trying to explain to you why I think this way, and I want to know why you think this way, right? And then at that point it's like, well, and then I would just like to share with you like, well, there's some things that you should consider, right? Because if you consider these things, they might change your mind, And so there's that. And then I've done this with all types of things. So that's a form of activism. Another thing I am, I kind of activist. I'm I would say proud. I'm a patient escort for Planned Parenthood. So Planned Parenthood, in case you don't know, it's like a healthcare clinic. It's like it's a chain. It's like a bunch. It's many of them in the United States of America. Planned Parenthood, right? It's a healthcare clinic. They focus on family planning, and all of them used to provide, or most of them used to provide abortion services. That's not the case anymore because because some states in America abortion is illegal now because of that thing that happened with the Supreme Court. They overturned that Roe versus Wade that like solidified abortion being legal, and that was overturned. So a lot of states don't offer abortion anymore because it's illegal. Right, so the Planned Parenthoods here in my state, they don't provide abortions because that would be illegal. But you still have these patient protesters. These protesters that stand in front of the building, and they try and dissuade, patients, really, people who are trying to get care, not just abortions. A lot of times they're not trying to do that. They just try to get like family planning advice, or they're trying to get like contraceptives. Right? They're trying to get like hormone therapy. There's all types of UTI stuff. There's so many things that Planned Parenthood offers, right? And just sometimes just general health care, right? But these people that protest Planned Parenthood, they have the signs. They talk about how abortion is murder, and they're usually they go to this church. It's a religious thing. That's their motivation. All right. And so I'm a patient escort, which is like a program that Planned Parenthood has had for several decades now, right? Where you just stand in front of the building, and you kind of like when the patients come in, they drive in and they park and they get out of the car. You kind of go in front of them, and you kind of like go in between them and those protesters, just so you can make sure like, hey, those protesters, you don't gotta listen to them. You just tell the patient like you can ignore them. They don't really have any power. They're just stating their freedom of speech, but don't let them disturb you or anything. You just walk on by. They might yell at you. They might try and like give you some free shit to convince you, but they're just saying a bunch of lies. Just just walk in the building. It's all good. I'm here. You don't gotta worry about them. And I do that on a weekly basis, and that's cool. The thing is, Planned Parenthood, which I honor and I respect. I don't want to. I don't violate this, right? They have when you're doing their patient escorting, you're not supposed to interact with the protesters. You're not supposed to talk to them, which I kind of disagree with, to be honest with you. I think it probably would be cool to have kind of go up to them and talk and kind of debate with them. I think they feel like they're just giving them attention and that's what they want. And, I guess I understand that. So I don't do that. So I don't, I follow their protocol because, I'm here for the patient. So I'm like, okay, I won't do that. Now, when I'm not patient escorting, like off hours, I mean, I'm a volunteer, so there is no off out. But when I'm not doing the patient escorts and I'm just casually minding my own business, sometimes I do this when I'm tabling, right? There's people that debate me on abortion, right? And say abortion is murder. And I made a video about this too, if you want to check out. But it's the same kind of, I consider this activism too, where I'm like, oh, really? You think abortion is murder? Let's talk, and it's not healthcare? Like, why do you think that? And then I've had long conversations with people about this too, and honestly, I have changed some people's minds. Some people who have thought this way about abortion being like, oh, it's like a God says that's a thing, that's murder. And then I've through conversation, they've I've gotten some people to be like, well, is it though? Because you just throw up stuff about how I'm a Christian myself. I'm in real life, I've mentioned that on the channel several times as well. But I say abortion is not mentioned in the Bible at all. Right? It's not mentioned in the Bible. There is no verse that references abortion. So is it really a thing that's against the Bible? Right. And then, what they'll throw up some verse that's kind of out of context, and then we talk about it. We're like, okay, so this verse, is this really referring to abortion, or is this referring to something else? Right. And then, because I'm a Christian and I've read the Bible, I have a bit of an informed opinion about it. And they've read the Bible too, so we can kind of have this theological discussion. And that's pretty cool because usually with the abortion argument, right, is secular, non-religious people versus hardcore fundamentalist conservative Christian people, like the evangelical type of level, which and you don't really get the in-betweens, so you're always about your religion has nothing to do with how I treat my body and stuff like that, which, hey, I'm all down for that. That makes sense to me. I would not go against that. But what's missing though is the people who are religious, and they're like, hey, actually abortion is not against God, right? And I can show you theologically that it's not, right? And it is a long history of that, by the way. There are plenty of Catholic organizations and religious organizations that are pro-abortion. The mainstream media doesn't want you to know that, but that's been a thing for a long time, right? And that's something I tend to bring up too. That's not all religious people think that way, right? And I think having that kind of theological discussion of hey, I could show you theologically that abortion is not against God, as opposed to I'm not just gonna wave my finger at you and say you're an idiot because you're just following this religion blindly or something. Which I can't blame people for doing that, because a lot of that is kind of ignorant. The religious kind of blind, or because it's have you really done that much research into why you believe this way? Where are you getting your reference? Are you getting it from just somebody, some one pastor or minister saying this stuff, or have you really thought this through deeply? Right? Or are you just well, I heard it one way, and therefore that's just how it's gonna be? It's So I had these kinds of conversations too with people. I would argue that that is also activism. That's a kind of activism, I would say. Um, just kind of like having difficult conversations with people about very important issues. I think like my YouTube channel, I like to focus on doing that a lot. Having these really kind of difficult conversations about things in a civil, constructive manner that isn't like biting each other's heads off. It's sad because we live in a world where and it's for many reasons. We live in a world where if you disagree with somebody, it's like they're your mortal enemy. And to a certain extent, I understand because these the things that people disagree with, they are like life and death issues. Like somebody who's like super pro police, for instance, is like somebody against police is like, dude, like police are literally killing unarmed people of color on the street, and your unwillingness to accept that is killing more people, is allowing more people to die, that kind of thing. So I get it. Or with the abortion thing, where it's like, dude, I'm not gonna like have a civil conversation with somebody who wants to control my body or want to take away my autonomy. Like, to me, like you're my mortal enemy at that point. So I get it. Like, it's not lost on me, right? Why people feel this certain way. And the same could be said the other way around, right? About how if you feel like this if this is the God's the decree of God, and you firmly religion is a very powerful thing, where it's like, look, God said this, and I will I am 100% for that. So whatever you're saying, I don't want to hear it. Like, but I think there comes to the point where you have to like really take a step back and be like, is this gonna go anywhere? And so what happens is you have these like either these conversations that go nowhere, or these kind of destructive relationships where both parties kind of go down in flames. And then you got this other point of view where it's like, yeah, that's what we want. We want like the world to go down in flames so we can build it back up again, right? It's like, the whole like, the idea of the revolution, where everything is destroyed, and then once everything's destroyed, you can build it back up again. But how many people are going to have to die for that to happen, right? I don't like that type of approach. I know a lot of people in the activist world believes that that's how things should be. Like, dude, we got to like throw down, and the martyrs, right? The martyrs gotta do the martyring, and it's like, yeah, I don't know about that. Can we try to implement some philosophy? I just go back to the philosophy again. Like, you could definitely use philosophy in an activist way, right? I'll give you another thing that I do. I've talked about it before. I'm part of this. Another activist group is called Food Not Bombs. It's been around since the 70s, I believe. The 70s, I think, or the late 70s. I don't. It was a reaction to the Vietnam War and the funding of nuclear power plants and things like that. And it was a response to that kind of like the funding, the funding of the government's funding of the Vietnam War and the nuclear power, right? And nuclear power is that's a whole thing in and of itself, right? Nuclear power can be used in a good way, but the way that the government and corporations were funding it became like a form of capital rather than a form of helping people. It was just like, oh, this is actually big business. And so there was a reaction to it and so a group of the first people of this group, Food Not Bombs, they set up a small table, kind of similar thing that I was talking about before. They set up a table in front of like a big bank in, I think it was a federal Reserve Bank or something like that. Or it might have been, it was a large bank in Washington, D.C., and they just served food for free to like primarily homeless people, houseless people, but also just people who just needed food. They just served it, and they would just talk to people while doing that and say, hey, like, why are we funding wars and when we're, people are starving on the street? Like, does this make sense? Right? And so they, that's continued to go on in history. And Food Not Bombs is still around to this day. I'm a part of the Memphis branch, and we do that. We set up tables in public spaces, and we serve free food to homeless people, houseless people, and just people who just need food. And we also serve like drinks, hygienic products, contraceptives, clothes, all types of things. We serve that to people. And, we have, so where do we get the food from? This is the question. The food comes from, we go to farmers markets and groceries and eateries, and we collect food that they would have thrown away. There's a statistical reality here. It's like 40% of all food in the world that gets produced is just thrown out. And, good food. 40%. Yeah. Which means 40% of all food, let me just repeat that. All the food that's produced on planet Earth, 40% of that food is just thrown into dumps or garbage heaps. Right? So what does that mean? That means that, and this is good food, right? So that means that hunger, hunger is a huge thing in this world. Hunger is something that is, it plagues humanity. One of the great challenges of human survivability, right? Of our species, but knowing that fact, there's no good reason why hunger should exist, right? There's no reason, right? Because it's not an issue of, the problem is people always debate like we don't have enough resources, this whole scarcity thing, like, there's not enough resources, or even like people who say like, oh, the world's getting overpopulated, there's too many humans, there's not enough resources to go around, and that's just not true. Right? There's plenty of resources. It's just the way we manage resources is wasteful, and it isn't like, and the other problem is, well, some of it is incompetence, but most of it is just greed. It's like the focus is, well, we can't sell this, so this is no value to it, right? Yeah, but you can feed people with it that are hungry and starving. It's like, yeah, but we can't sell it, we can't make money off of it, so it's no value to it. And so Food Not Bomb argues like, where are our priorities? Right? Where are the priorities? Like, is that the thing that we care about most, is making money, or do we care more about like actually like human life? And so that we do that. So when we're out there giving food, we also throw down philosophy. We're like, here's some food, and of course, when you feed people, they're like, oh, that's cool. I'll talk with you now. All right, and we prepare the food, we cook the food, we make it very tasty because it's good food. It's not like expired food, right? It's just like it's good food that they just couldn't sell because they had a surplus, or it's close to expiration, but it's not there yet, so it's fine. So it's food. It's good food, right? And we say like, there's no reason why you should be on the street. You should be. There's no reason. There's no good reason why you should be homeless, which is true. Some people will say like, oh, homeless people, that's just a moral. They just made the wrong decision. Right? They made the wrong decision. They should have been more responsible. They did something wrong in their life, which is just not true, right? The reason why homelessness and homeless people exist is because we live in a society where we put profit over human life. That's why. That's the reason why there's people on the street. It's not like a moral failing by the people on the street. It's actually a moral failing by the people, the real estate owners, the people that run the housing market. It's their moral failing, right? It's a moral failing of banks, the people who own banks, and the people who own like corporations. It's their moral failing. They're the ones that make the decisions for them to get on the street, right? And then we can further talk about this. But this is a philosophical thing which we like to push. So it's not only just us feeding people. It's not only just feeding people and giving people good food and like giving people supplies. It's also about giving them wisdom and knowledge, and that's a form of activism. You know, feed people's mind, then they have the ability to, fight the powers that oppress them, right? And fighting the powers that oppress you, that's activism, right? So I just want to say that. Let's conclude there because we're about to hit our 1 hour mark, and just say, like, look, you don't have to be an activist. Of course, you can do the protesting with the signs on the street. You can do the rallying. You can do the, petitioning, the canvassing, knocking on people's doors, saying, hey, you can do all that stuff. Marching, those are all good things in terms of activism. But there's like other ways you can be an activist too, right? You can just have conversations with people about things you believe is right, but that you think the world is not like, the world is not treating fairly or correctly, right? You can say, like, man, our criminal justice system is just fucked up, man. Now, I know, like, I speak as an American, right? As a person from the United States of America. So there's a level of freedom of speech. It's not completely free. Like, censorship is a thing. Here in America, we ban books, which is like, wow, how did we get here? But we did. Books about race and books about gender, which I guess I'll always be salty about that. That's the word, salty. I'll never get over that. It's like, wow, really? Home of the free, right? We talk about freedom, but you can't even read books. Not even like, this is books about pedophilia. Shit. You can read Lolita, that's fine, but when you can't read like the autobiography of Malcolm X, right? It's like, again, like, where are the priorities? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just crazy. But I could still set up a table in a public space and talk about police abolition or prison abolition. All right, that's cool. I know, like, places like Russia or China, you can't do that type of thing. They'll throw you in prison and they'll probably torture you and shit. Like, so I get, like, some places you can't do that, but the places you can do that, exercise your muscle, your ability. It's all like, you gotta, like, definitely. It's like a muscle, right? You got to exercise it, or they'll take it away from you. It is true. Like in the United States of America, it's slowly, like, the ability to be an activist is slowly going away. I guess being an activist in a certain field, like, if you want to be a gun rights activist, then yeah, you got a lot of power there. Right? But if you want to be if you want to advocate for the limitation of guns. That's getting harder and harder these days, but you can still do it. And I would encourage you to express those ideas and explain them and talk to people in a educated, civil, constructive way, because it won't be too long where you'll turn around and be like, damn, you can't even talk about like Aristotle anymore. Right? Aristotle is banned. What happened? Right? You can't even read Plato. Like, huh? What happened? Well, Plato was a heathen, and God doesn't like that, so we're not going to talk. You never know. So exercise your rights to expression before it's gone. Yeah, that's the other angle I would like to say. But these are all forms of activism, I would say. So I would say, like, currently right now, we can still have conversations like this, which is great. And you don't have to be a martyr, and you don't have to be a saint. You could just be an average, normal dude who just wants to, like, change minds. And you don't have to hit, use a hammer and beat somebody over the head with your ideas. You could just have friendly conversations, also listening to the other side, being like, okay, why do you think this certain way? Why do you believe this certain way? Okay. This is why I think this way. How did you come to do that? And this is why I came to do that. I think this is wrong because this, and this. Why do you think I think this? Why do you think I'm wrong? You could have that back and forth conversation. And I would argue like that's activism. I'll also encourage you to, log off the internet from time to time. I'm on the internet now talking to you. But, log off the internet. I know anonymity is a cool thing that we can utilize to like keep us safe. So we know like, even though, sometimes it still hurts when people insult us, even with our anonymous like avatars and such. But I know it really hurts when it's like face to face. But I find when you're talking to somebody face to face, even about things you strongly disagree with, and you kind of respect their humanity, and you kind of are civil with them, they will more than often respect you. Sometimes you'll get the occasional asshole. I've had that, but for the most part, like 95% of the time, it's all good. It's just like pretty civil. Well, so that would be my discussion on activism. And if nobody else has anything else to say, no comments, I will close here. Thank you for watching the live stream. And, for those who are watching it later on when it's already recorded, all good with y'all too. Check out my other videos about philosophical texts or not. It's all up to you. I don't care. It's out there. It is available for you to watch. It's philosophy, as I find this great tool, and I would like to encourage people to read philosophy books and kind of form their own opinions. But I would encourage people to form their own opinions based off of like information that's true and like critical thinking, rather than kind of like false information and kind of like gut opinion, which gut reaction is important sometimes, but a lot of times it's not. Right? You gotta like really sit down and analyze why we believe the things that we believe. But thanks a lot. I'll see y'all later. You've been watching the Black Ponderer. Tune in next time for more philosophical thought.